Good morning, everybody. I hope you all have had a fabulous week. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jackie, and I have the absolute pleasure of telling the kids' story every Sunday. And this Sunday, we are going to be talking about Moses and the burning bush. And I don't know about you, but if I were to see a bush that was lit on fire but wasn't burning, I'd get a little freaked out, kind of like Moses did. But we'll get into that in a minute. So, without further ado, our story is going to be Exodus chapter 3. So let's get started. All right, guys. So like I said, our story is going to be taking place in Exodus chapter 3, and it starts with a man named Moses. Now, Moses has had quite an interesting story up to this point in his life. He was born to a woman, and because of the Pharaoh, she had to give him up as a baby, and she didn't want him to die because the Pharaoh had ordered, all of the Hebrew babies to be killed. She put him in a basket and floated him down the river, and he was found by the Pharaoh's daughter and was taken to the castle and raised as the Pharaoh's daughter's son. So, after a while, he got into a little bit of trouble in Egypt and had to go on the run. And this is kind of where we pick up on that. And so Moses becomes a shepherd, is running from all of these people who are trying to find him. And he sees an angel appear in a bush. But the catch is, the angel appears in fire. And the bush is on fire, but it's not burning. And I don't know if you guys have ever lit a match on fire, but when you light a match on fire, it burns down and it starts to become black and kind of fall apart. But this wasn't happening with the bush. And so Moses sees this and thought, this isn't right. I have to go over there and make sure that this is what I'm actually seeing. And so when the Lord sees that he starts to approach the bush, he calls out and says, Moses, Moses. And Moses responds to God and says, here I am. And God warns him and says, don't come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place that you are standing is holy ground. So he's standing on an area that is holy. And so Moses listens to what he says, and God says, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And at this point, Moses has done everything that God has told him to, took off his sandals, made sure that he was following all of the things that God had said up to that point. But then he turns his face away because he was afraid to look at God. And so the Lord turns to looks at Moses and says, I've seen the struggle and the misery of my people in Egypt, and I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, because they were being held as slaves by the Egyptians. And so God says, I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and bring them up out of the land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And he's basically telling Moses in this point about the promised land. And I don't know if you guys are super familiar with VeggieTales, but there's a whole VeggieTales song about it. You should look it up. It's great. So after this, God continues talking about the cry of the Israelites and says, I have seen this, I have heard their cries, and now I'm sending you to the Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses wasn't too sure about that idea. He looks at God and says, who am I that I should go to the Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Moses didn't like talking in front of people. He kind of had a little bit of a stutter, which means he stumbles over his words and had a hard time being clear about what he wanted to say. And he didn't like public speaking. Most people don't. And he just kind of wanted to stay to himself. So God told Moses that, he said, I will be with you, and to prove to you that I am the one sending you, come back to this mountain once you've freed my people and worship here. And so Moses says, okay, so let's say I go. well, I'll agree to it. I go and they ask me who sent me. What do I tell them? Who do I tell them you are? And so God responds to Moses and says, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. And God also tells Moses, right after this, he says, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. And so he goes on to say that this is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation. And so this is actually, the reason he says that is because this is the first time God gives himself a name. And the name that he gave himself is I am. So Moses packs up his stuff, makes his way across the desert with his sheep, and decides to go talk to the Pharaoh. And that is where our story is going to end today. All right, so I hope you all have a fabulous week. If you are at all interested in Kids Night, we will be having Kids Night on Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central Time on Zoom. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. And other than that, that is all I have for you. I hope you all have a fabulous week, and I will see you on Wednesday, hopefully.